those are all the facts. That's what we know. Okay, those are all the things that we know. That's pretty much it. I mean, like, I'm not aware of anything else that we know. Based on that slim coterie of fact, people are immediately drawing the conclusions they want to draw. And this is one of the big problems in modern politics, is that people are they have preset conclusions that they want to get to, such as gun control good, gun control useful. And they immediately take this and they just shove the square peg into the round hole of gun control, even if there's no real evidence at this point that gun control would have made this any better. So Stephen Gutkowski over at the Washington Free Beacon, he has a very good rundown over at Washington Free Beacon talking about exactly what exactly the gun laws are that are on the books at this point. And as he says, the gun laws with regard to machine guns are and have been quite strict for a long time. So since 1986, that is the case. Since 1986, it has been illegal in the United States to buy a fully automatic long gun. Fully automatic firearms, this is Gutowski talking, this is fully automatic firearms that were registered under the National Firearms Act before 1986 were grandfathered in and are still illegal. However, in order to obtain a legal fully automatic firearm, you must apply to the ATF, pay a $200 tax, and register with the ATF. The ATF has a registry of every legally owned fully automatic firearm and informs local law enforcement of all who own them in their jurisdiction. Fingerprints and photographs are required to be submitted along with a registration application. In practice, there are several 100,000 legally registered fully automatic firearms in the United States, but they are very hard to obtain. And beyond the registration process, which can take up to 9 months to complete, the price of fully automatic firearms is extremely high. The low end of fully automatic firearms is around 5 figures per gun. He says he's seen fully automatic firearms in the $300,000 range. The reason this is relevant is because what you'll hear is that they're unregulated. This is untrue. That is a gun myth. Now, there are a bunch of people who are putting aside any semblance of reality and fact in order to promulgate this political agenda. Hillary Clinton is one of those. So Barack Obama does the right thing. He tweets out basically that this is just horrifying. Hillary Clinton, however, can't stop herself. So she tweets out, she starts in this way. Las Vegas, we are grieving with you. The victims, those who lost loved ones, the responders, and all affected by this cold-blooded massacre. And then she continues along these lines. She says, the crowd fled at the sound of gunshots. It took her legitimately 5 minutes to go political with this. She says the crowd fled at the sound of gunshots. Imagine the deaths if the shooter had a silencer, which the NRA wants to make easier to get. So within minutes, she's already politicizing this and blaming the NRA without any evidence the NRA had anything to do with this. There was no silencer on the gun, obviously and apparently. She continued along these lines as well, but this was the main thrust of it. So she's blaming the NRA for all of this, and that is just unacceptable. First of all, it's irrelevant. He wasn't using a silencer. It's stupid, because that's not how silencers work. The idea that the silencer would have prevented people from hearing that, all a silencer does is it prevents damage to the ears of the person who's firing the gun. Silencers do not silence guns. Okay, they reduce the volume, of course, but it doesn't sound like it does in Die Hard. Like if you watch Die Hard, if you watch any of these older movies where somebody puts a silencer on a pistol and then they fire it, and it sounds basically like an envelope opening, right? Just sort of, it sounds like, right? That's not what a gun sounds like when fired with a silencer. I fired a gun with a silencer. It sounds like a jackhammer. It's very, very loud. Beyond that, the reason that this shooter presumably didn't use a silencer is because silencers can overheat and prevent the firing mechanism from working properly. This guy knew what he was doing. He apparently had multiple firing positions inside his suite in the Mandalay Bay and was firing down into the crowd. So Hillary doesn't know what she's talking about. It's irrelevant. It's ignorant. And it's doing something else which I find really atrocious, and that is doing the same routine I blamed Piers Morgan for back after Sandy Hook, standing on the evils of this situation and the horrors of this situation in order to make a political point and suggesting that people who disagree with her about things like silencers don't care enough about the people who were just shot. First of all, I would just suggest this is a country music concert. I would bet you the majority of the people in that crowd are not in favor of Hillary Clinton-type gun regulations. Even the people who are in the crowd, even the victims, I'm sure, many not the people who are, I don't want to speak for people who are dead or people who are shot, so I shouldn't say that. But I will say that a lot of people at a country music concert, that's a crowd that's more likely to be pro-gun than other crowds. So Hillary Clinton can't even speak on behalf of those people with accuracy. Okay, I want to talk in a second about a couple of other reasons it's inappropriate to immediately jump to was President Trump's press conference this morning at which he spoke about what had just happened.
My fellow Americans, we are joined together today in sadness, shock, and grief. Last night, a gunman opened fire on a large crowd at a country music concert in Las Vegas, Nevada. He brutally murdered more than 50 people and wounded hundreds more. I want to thank the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and all of the first responders for their courageous efforts and for helping to save the lives of so many. The speed with which they acted is miraculous and prevented further loss of life. To have found the shooter so quickly after the first shots were fired is something for which we will always be thankful and grateful. It shows what true professionalism is all about.
So President Trump ordered the flags around the United States to be flown at half-staff in honor of the victims. It is the worst massacre, the worst mass shooting in American history. Here's what we know about the shooter. His 64 years old, his name is Stephen Paddock from Mesquite, Nevada. There's no motive as of yet. People, whenever these sorts of things happen, everybody in the news industry immediately goes to social media and begins trying to uncover all of the facts about the guy. None of that has come out so far. Apparently, according to Corey Rose over at the local news, he was known to local police, but they don't really have a criminal history. There have been reports that he lived in a retirement home, but this remains unconfirmed at this time. The police have checked out his girlfriend, a woman named Mary Lou Danley. They've said that she had nothing to do with it at this point. They're now saying that he used a fully automatic weapon, and upon searching the suspect's home, officers found several weapons. I'll explain to you what the law is regarding fully automatic weapons in the United States. Suffice it to say, federal law has forbid the sale of fully automatic rifles in the United States since 1986. So the idea that this was, some guy just went down to the local gun shop and bought a gun, if this was indeed a fully automatic weapon, that is not correct. And you can hear on that tape, it sounds like a fully automatic weapon, right? The difference between a fully auto and a semi-auto, for people who are not familiar with guns, is that a semi-auto, you would hear burst fire. And usually those bursts are 3 bullets. So in that case, you hear a continuous rat-a-tatting of a machine gun like you would in a war movie. That's what a fully automatic weapon sounds like. There is a modification that you can make to some semi-automatic weapons. It can ruin the gun. It can also, if you do it right, then it can apparently make it fully automatic. Or there's also a modification that you can make that allows you to fire using the recoil from the semi-automatic rifle. Basically, you hold your finger in one place, and then there's a gun stock that you put on the gun that bounces back, and so that it sort of rattles against your shoulder, and that allows it to sort of act like a fully automatic weapon. But we don't have evidence that that's what was happening as of yet. According to Las Vegas Sheriff Joe Lombardo, the motive remains unclear, but is not suspected to be terrorism. This is all according to Amanda Prestigiacomo over at Daily Wire. He said, at this point, we believe it was a local individual. He resides here locally. I'm not at liberty to give you his place of residence yet because it's an ongoing investigation. We don't know what his belief system was at the time. Right now, we believe he's the sole aggressor at this point. The scene is static. Do not believe rumors that ISIS is putting out claiming credit for this. ISIS does this sometimes. ISIS has claimed credit for crimes it did not commit because it wants to make it appear as though it's an act of terrorism. Now, it may come out later that it was an act of radical Islamic terror, but we have no evidence of that so far, so please do not spread rumors of that. If you're going to talk about it, say there's no evidence so far, because there is no evidence of it so far. So, again, the girlfriend was reportedly traveling with him, but they are suggesting that she has nothing to do with it at this point. She was apparently found outside the country, and Paddock reportedly used her ID to get into the hotel. He was found dead by officers in a hotel room on the 32nd floor. Apparently, when they blew open the door, he killed himself. The suspect's brother gave a TV interview in which he said that there were no warning signs and said that he just snapped.